All right. Welcome back to the Forest Brothers podcast. It's your boy Mutsa Chris Don back in the cut, joined by my two brothers, Nkosi and Samson. What's goody, brothers? Name some of the brothers, Nkosi to say what's up, and then over to the boy Samson, and then we can get started with this Liverpool Newcastle episode. Over to you, Mangaro.
Thanks, Mr. Mutsa. What's up, beautiful listeners? It's the Forest Brothers podcast. We're back with another episode this week. Over to you, Samson.
Yeah, welcome, dear listener, to the Forest Brothers podcast. It's always great to see you, my brothers. What's up, Angora? Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it for real. Brothers, all I have to say is peace is upon us. Like, the timeline has been so amazing because we don't have too many, what can I say? I don't want to insult them too much because they're down in the dumps. I don't want to kick a dead horse, but I can't just imagine what the streets would look like right now if Liverpool had won the last two games this week. If they had beaten PSG, if they beat Newcastle, oh my days. The Salah claims will be too much. But because there's been a certain humbling these last few games. So listen, in case you don't know, Liverpool lost in a penalty shootout to PSG, a few days ago in the Champions League. Got knocked out. Easy money. Best hate watch I've had in a very long time. Because, oh my God, man. The jubilation was crazy. And then, a couple of days ago, was it yesterday, Liverpool lost to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. Well done, Newcastle. First trophy in like 56 years. Again,
70,
balance. Oh,
70,
57?
70.
7 years? Ah, damn, man. Anyways, peace was restored, man. Because, again, what I really loved about this week is no more Ballon d'Or shouts for the brother Mo Salah. We all see what fraud he is. We all see who he's about. Actually, let me throw it to Samson because Samson had a very interesting stat or interesting thing that he was talking about Salah in finals and how he never shows up. So I'm going to throw it to you, Samson, to talk about Salah and his fraudulent runs when it comes to cup finals.
Yeah, so I think what alerted me to it is there's a Liverpool fan on Twitter who his last post was in May 2022. And the post said, "I'm not posting anymore until Salah has a non-penalty goal in a final." That brother's not posted since May 2022. Liverpool have been in like 6 finals since then. So it's been long. And I think in total, I think currently his record is at, I think 1 goal in 15 finals for Liverpool, which is like, damn, that's nasty work, man. It's nasty work. And it's the thing, like, the difference between playing in cup finals and playing in the Champions League is that, and it's what we've been complaining about this season with Liverpool, like the calls, right? The way their games have been called, the little advantages they get, all that stuff disappears in games like this because, referees, you can't make such decisions in a big game like that. You just can't. Like, for example, some of the pens they're used to getting, like I think like the first Southampton pen, where it's more a player running into a foot than the other way around. Like, you're not going to get those in that kind of game. In the Champions League against PSG, it was pure domination. They were not touching the ball. They had a brief spell where they were actually attacking, but again, it's the same old story with Liverpool. Like, can you create outside of Mo Salah doing something special? And for the past week and a half, Mo Salah has not been doing anything special. Because even in the Southampton game, Mo Salah scored 2 penalties. He was not involved really in Liverpool's attack in creating anything. And PSG, Newcastle, same thing. They were giving him the ball, and my guy, it's like the juice had run out. And I'll admit, like, Mo Salah, penalties aside, he has had a lot of them. But putting those aside, he has put in some incredible individual performances this season. And his teammates should have more goals because he has created some great opportunities. But the fact is, he's been doing a carry job on this team. And this team has been very healthy, way more healthy than any other contender has. And for the last week and a half, it's just not worked out because Mo Salah is 32, and he's not Messi. Like, he literally cannot just dribble past four guys and put in the top corner every single game. Like, that's just not something he can do. So what we're seeing is Liverpool in very big moments not having something else they can go to, not having a plan B. Because you will notice in the Newcastle game, in the Carabao Cup final, they played a back three to finish that game. I'll ask you both, when have you seen Liverpool play a back three this whole season? When? When is that something that's been done? So you are just seeing them throwing things on the field and saying, hey, something's going to happen. I'll just throw this guy on. Like, at some point, I think I saw Elliott was playing right wing back and Chiesa was playing left wing back. And I was like, I hadn't seen Chiesa in like 2 months. I was like, where is he coming from?
My guy, I was shook when he came on. I was like, yo, at that point, there were like 8 attackers on the pitch?
Yeah, there were so many attackers on the pitch, man. Like, it was nuts. So, hey, man, it's been a great week and a half. I've enjoyed it. Great fun. But yeah, over to you, Mungoro. I want to hear your thoughts on these past few games.
I also just want to point out that Mo Salah has scored 9 penalties this season. Out of how many goals he has? 25? 26?
Well, in the league?
Yeah, in the league. And, I mean, the closest person, Justin Kluivert, is 6, Wemba is 4, Bruno Fernandes is 3. But 9 penalties is honestly, from in one single season. I'm going to look, whilst Mangor is giving his thoughts, I'm going to look at previous seasons to see how many other penalties, what are the highest penalties scored by a team, because I feel like this is one of the seasons where, like, we've had the most penalties awarded to a single team ever. I don't know. It feels like that to me, but I could be wrong.
Off the top of my head, I will say Man United 2020, 2021 or 2019, 2020. Actually, 2020, 2021, because one of those years Bruno Fernandes had like you guys, I'm sure you remember, he had an insane penalty run in the league where it felt like every week. And you even had to captain him on FPL just because the guy was raking in the points with those penalties. Yeah. So it's probably rivaling one of those years.
I'll take a look, but over to you, Mangoro.
One thing I want to mention, and I just want to let the listeners know about, I sent it in the group chat yesterday as I was watching the cup final. And I was like, if there's no dubious calls, dubious penalties or mistakes, Mo Salah is nowhere to be found. He's MIA in action. And it's something that I've been saying this whole season to all the Liverpool fans. And I do understand they're fans, they have to back their man, but the evidence is there. You can never lie to this thing called football. It will catch up with you. And I've been mentioning this for quite a while. I think one thing that I think we've become soft here at the Forest Brothers podcast, I think we need to go back to giving people the reality. And the reality is Mo Salah is not a Ballon d'Or contender. It's not happening. Because I want to paint a clear picture for the beautiful listeners out there. Mo Salah in the last week or so has played Southampton, PSG, and Newcastle. Southampton, nowhere to be found. Penalties, 2 penalties. And then Sugawara, who's been trying to get a contract at Liverpool. We saw him in the first game, what he did as well. Did the same thing last weekend. On both legs against Paris Saint-Germain, Nuno Mendes had him. Like, he had him in his pocket the whole time. Nuno Mendes is not known as a man-marking superstar, but he had Mo Salah. And nothing. No penalty. If there's no penalty, that's nothing. That game, they went out. all this talk about a quadruple. Every time I think they talk about a quadruple, it just every season it just doesn't happen. They end up with one or two trophies. And then on Sunday, the other picture I want to paint here real quick is he was up against Tino Livramento, who, number one, is right footed. He's not a left back. He's playing in an inverted position. That's not his comfortable position. He hasn't played like a good chunk of the season. Why? Because Lewis Hall has been doing well and he's been playing that position. So Livramento has been on the right. And then in the final, they put him on the left. And who was he playing alongside? Dan Burn. Dan Burn hasn't he's not like a fully fledged in 3-4 years time we won't be talking about Dan Burn. Dan Burn will remember him for the header he scored in the final. We won't be remembering his great career. That's just Dan Burn, and we know he's that he's not the greatest. And Mo Salah couldn't penetrate, couldn't do something because when you look at players that in the big moments, Ballon d'Or contender players, in the big moments they show up. Vinicius Jr., he showed up in the Champions League final last season when they were playing Dortmund. Rodri, he's shown up for Spain, for Man City. He's shown up in the big occasions. And then we go back to the history. We look at Messi and Ronaldo for a good decade. Champions League finals, league title races, classicals to decide the title. Those players have shown up. And I was doing some research earlier today just to add a few more finals. As the Thrash Brothers podcast, we have to talk about our competition, AFCON. He played in AFCON in 2021, and he was nowhere to be found. Mo Salah is not a finals person, is what I'm learning about him at this point. And I think we just need to accept it. And Liverpool fans can cry and say, what? It's fair enough. At the end of the day, it's a football opinion. But when I look at just them as a whole, I think we just need to accept that this is what has been happening. Because I mentioned this earlier in the season. Liverpool in themselves do not create chances. They do this weird thing of they rely on mistakes or something happening in the game and the referee is supporting them. Like we've seen that this season. And then that luck, it'll run out at some point. And this last week, it's run out. Fine, I do understand that. But I do, as much as I want to mention that aspect, but I do want to give credit for Mo Salah in that he's been there, even when he hasn't been on the ball as much, to provide those chances and score those goals, even though some of them are penalties. But as much as also we also take it for granted that penalties are just penalties. The fact that he's able to score them on a consistent basis, that's credit to him. We should give criticism, but we also should give praise at the same time. We shouldn't be one-sided. So I think it's only right that we do mention that as well, because now when you think about it, the season's about to end, they'll probably win the Premier League title. I don't know if Samson has something to share there, but in all honesty, I think it's been a good season for them as well as Mo Salah. But let's stop on this Ballon d'Or talk. Let's just stop there.
No, exactly. And I will say that, we did talk about this though. If in previous, again, even before the year started, we did say at some point this is going to catch up with Liverpool. And now it's catching up, right? It's now we're now starting to see them for who they truly are. Because even in that Carabao Cup game with Newcastle, the ref was still on Liverpool's side, by the way. It's just that Newcastle were enormous, just way better than what the ref could do for them. Because, I was seeing some calls, and I know we had a dispute, Mangora, about that first penalty, the offside goal that was scored. And to me, it looked like Isak was onside, but from what I've seen, they're saying that there was a player impeding the keeper, even though I personally don't believe that there was any impediment there or whatever the case. And I also found it really interesting that no line was drawn. I don't know if maybe there wasn't a line needed. I don't know. But in Liverpool's offside goal, Chiesa's goal, they spent 5 minutes just making sure that goal was onside. Lines were drawn, and now every angle was shown. I was like, man, these guys are really trying their best.
Musa, can I stop you there? Except, like, come on, like, so I don't know if it's an agenda. I do agree there weren't lines on the Isak thing, but there were lines on the Chiesa thing. That was very dubious. I do agree there. But I don't know. I don't think it's that big of an agenda that when it's a Liverpool goal, they need to make sure that it's a goal. Like, it's either it's on or it's off. But also, like, when you look at the naked eye, the Isak one, that was offside. That's why he didn't even like celebrate like fully, because he kind of, I think, at the back of his mind knew that it was sort of offside. The calls at this point with most games, like, I just don't really care anymore because these referees are so inconsistent and they do it every week now. So there's not much I can say there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, for me, it looked like it was on. But okay, I was looking at the stats about penalties and stuff. I'm actually so surprised. Mo Salah has the most penalties scored ever in the Premier League. Like, he's number one with 34 goals. And then Harry Kane has 33 at number 2. Lampard has 32 penalties scored at number 3. Steven Gerrard has 29 penalties, and he's the 4th. So Mo Salah is actually number 1 in terms of penalties scored ever in the Premier League, which I find quite interesting. So again, as we were saying, that in this season, Mo Salah has scored the most at 9 penalties. And so I was just kind of just playing around to look at, like, okay, like, how has it been in other seasons? So in the last season, Cole Palmer also had 9 penalties scored. That was like the highest of the season. I mean, there's still like 9-10 games to go, 9-10 weeks. So I'm pretty sure there are gonna be more penalties for Salah to score.
Wait, just tell me. So who like, apart from Mo Salah, who is in the top 5 of the most penalties ever scored?
So most penalties ever scored, it's Salah, Harry Kane, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Mark Noble, and then Sergio Aguero's at number 6. Same with Jamie Vardy at number 6. And
how many do those guys have at number 6?
They have 27.
You're telling me Mo Salah went from like 7th or 8th to 1st in one season?
Yep.
That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
Because he scored 9 this season, so 34 minus 9. Quick math. What is that?
That's 25.
25? Yeah, so Mo Salah before this season he was 7th. Now he's number 1.
We're not even done with the season. 10 games left.
Season's not even done. Yeah, actually I didn't clock that. Like, that's actually crazy. That's actually crazy.
That's just silly, man.
We talked about Bruno Fernandes in that season. He's on 22 penalties.
Yeah, that's not even close.
Yeah, it's really, really not close. So it's just it's
I was waiting this season too. Like, I really thought, in my mind, like, yeah, this guy's over. But yeah, man, those penalties are just hard to ignore, man. 9 is a lot. With 10, like, Palm had 9 in the whole season. 9 with 10 games left is a lot. That's insane. That's because they're probably gonna get at least 3 or 4 more. Like that. That's just a lot.
It is. And Erling Haaland, in that first good season that he had, he scored 7. He had the highest that season. So this is what I'm saying, man. Like, the stat padding is nuts. That's what I'm saying. Like, this season alone, Salah scored like 26 goals, and if none of them are penalties, that means if you do the math, and I'm sure I'm pretty sure, I think I might have mentioned this in another episode, but that's about 37% of his goals this season are penalties, which to me is obscenely high for a player. Like, to have a stat where you've not scored a non-penalty goal in a final in 6 in the last 3 years. I don't know, man. Also, I don't want this to be like a Salah bashing. Like, at the end of the day, he's a good guy. He plays well. Everything, sure. I don't want to say he's a fraud or anything, but it just speaks to the conversation we're having about Liverpool this season, that they've been handed a lot. Like, this is not usual. This is not a usual season for them to be where they are right now. And we're starting to finally see it, because Newcastle were heads above these guys, right? Like PSG were
Yeah.
heads above these guys. We've seen games. Southampton were heads above these guys in that first half. We've all seen it. Slot, I don't know if he has an idea what he's doing. Like he should not be where he's at right now. And I feel like after this season, next season, I don't think Liverpool gets back to this level. I don't, unless if they sign Isak or whatever they do. But I feel like this is just a unicorn type season for Liverpool, and they don't get back to this level again, unless if they make major signings. I don't know, but I'm just happy that we can all finally see what these guys are made of. Mangoro.
What I do want to add is credit to Mo Salah. He scored 34 goals, 9 penalties. Fair enough to him. That's quite an achievement. He's going to be scoring more the rest of the season because we know the referees will hand them to them. So, but let's just touch on the game real quick. And I think 2-1 flattered Liverpool. I do want to give credit to the boy in the sticks, Colleen Kelleher. He did deliver a good performance. Without him, I think, okay, well, they do have Alisson, and we saw Alisson against PSG. Maybe it could have still been 2-1. It's just some of the decision making by the Newcastle players, mainly Jacob Murphy. It could have been Harvey Barnes. It could have been worse. It could have been 3-4. Some of the decision making by the Newcastle front players, like they didn't even have AG, Anthony Gordon. Like, what could have happened if they had Anthony Gordon? But for me, like, people can say Dan Burn was man of the match and all. But I just want to touch on Dan Burn real quick and Liverpool. Liverpool, from how I understand it, back then were the first team to have a throw-in and set-piece coach. First team in the Premier League, a recognized throw-in and set-piece coach. And I don't know if the set-piece coach was at the game yesterday or if they still have him. How, in football terms, is your shortest player by a long margin going to mark Newcastle's tallest player at every set piece? Because it had been coming. The goal to me wasn't a surprise. Like when the goal came, I was like, this is not surprising because this has been coming. Like you put your smallest player against their biggest lad. When Liverpool are now attacking in the second half, we saw Van Dijk Dan Burn go straight to Van Dijk and mark him because he's the best header of the ball. Or Fabian Schär mark Van Dijk. I mean, was it Schär? Yeah, it was Schär. So we could see like the difference between the two because you know that's their best header of the ball. Fine, he hasn't scored goals and all, but like it was just very obvious. Like even like the fans could see it in the stands. But then all of a sudden, Slot decided that's a good decision, and they paid for it. They truly paid for it. Like they didn't come into the game. But I think something that is underrated about yesterday's game was the midfield masterclass that the Newcastle midfielders put on. To me, they might have given Dan Burn man of the match, but number 39, Bruno Guimaraes. You know that guy, I remember seeing him, I think, 20 COVID season when we were still at Lyon, playing alongside Houssem Aouar and Maxime Kakare. And they were cooking. I think they even got to like the Champions League semi-final. I think they lost to City. Did they beat City? Like, they got 4 in the Champions League. That's what I remember under Rudy Garcia. And I saw Bruno G, and I was like, this guy Bruno G is actually talented. When Newcastle picked him up, I was like, they have a player. Yesterday, in that final, I do now I understand why he was so emotional after the game. Like, he had the game of his life. I don't think Bruno Guimaraes will ever have a game like that. Like, they dominated Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Gravenberch. They were nowhere to be found yesterday. Joe Wellington, like the tackles, celebrating everything. Like the passion in the Geordies yesterday. Oh my God. Like Newcastle's midfield. Oh my God. I knew Sandro Tonali was good. I knew he was good. But what he was doing yesterday, he was just eating up ground. Like that Italian guy, oh my days. Like That guy's Tonali, like you know Newcastle, like we sleep on Newcastle. Newcastle do have a good team, like in terms of like when they show up because we saw Isak. We saw Harvey Barnes in and out of the game, Jacob Murphy, same thing. But like those three midfielders, Liverpool midfielders couldn't cope with them. And I think maybe the pain of like losing the final last or a couple of years ago hurt them, and they really wanted to rectify that, and they certainly rectified it in style because Liverpool were even now playing, as we mentioned, back threes. They've never played a back three. Like when you're being tactically like destroyed, you start doing things like that. Like you pretty much don't know what to do, and deep down, even the Liverpool fans, I know they know this as well, the midfield of Newcastle was like impenetrable. Like at any point, like they were winning all the second balls. They were strong in the tackle. They made the right tackles at the right time. And with Bruno G, which is something that's so subtle, is that he would take the tackles at the right time to kill the momentum of Liverpool getting the ball back and attacking them and then helping his team move up the field. Something so subtle but very important. I think that's why like Eddie Howe actually just made him like the full team captain because I know Trippier was on the field yesterday and he's the captain. There was an interesting stat actually that Trippier has played for Spurs, Atletico, and Newcastle in his career, and Burnley in his career. He's won his first trophy yesterday. Shout out to Trippier. Shout out to that man. I'm just saying, but
And I think
yeah, over to you, Samson.
he became the 65th player to win a trophy after leaving Spurs since 2008. There's like a
65 is
running
crazy.
counter. Yeah, 65 players. It's incredible. But yeah, to add on to Mongora's point here, like Newcastle, that midfield and that defense, the only way you get through that is having creativity. That's a game you have to win in the midfield. Your midfield has to be better than theirs, and you have to be able to you have to dominate the ball because you just have to tire them out because they're going to run all day, they're going to tackle, they're going to harass. But if you dominate the ball long enough, then those tackles turn into yellow cards. They can't tackle anymore. Those long busting runs they're making to close you down, well, they get a little more tired. They can't really mimic them as much anymore. Those long balls to Isak, you saw in the second half, they hit him a long ball. My guy was like, I'm out. I'm done. They had to bring him off. So that's how you do it. You dominate the midfield, you dominate the ball, and you just keep them under pressure. The issue with Liverpool is that their midfielders, the people who you would expect to shine on the ball, McAllister, Gravenberch, had stinkers. I mean, Gravenberch was hooked. I didn't think I'd see that this season. I thought he was like their most consistent, like the guy who everything runs through. Like when all else fails, we have Gravenberch back there. Like that was not working out. He was, and this is like a running theme because in both legs against PSG, Gravenberch was also nowhere to be found. He was just running around in those PSG games, running after Vitinha and what's the other? I think it's Fabian. I'm forgetting the third guy's name. But he was just chasing them, both legs. And I did not expect that to happen against Newcastle, but he was chasing again against Newcastle, which I thought was insane because in my mind, like, yeah, Newcastle, that midfield is great, but it's great for Newcastle. Like you're Liverpool. If I mention those three names that played, like Soboslai, McAllister, Gravenberch, Joe Linton, Tonali, Guimaraes, like, sure, Bruno Guimaraes can get into the Liverpool midfield, but Tonali, I mean, he's alright, he's good, it's okay. Joe Linton is a thug. All he does is tackle people and shoot sometimes. Like, that midfield dominated you. Like that was like the most shocking thing to me, that Liverpool could not control the ball long enough to threaten those guys. Because like for about 80 minutes or 70 minutes, it was really one way traffic, like energy wise, commitment wise. And it's only when Newcastle players started getting tired that, you know, Liverpool could actually grow into the game. And Mangor, I think the only reason Bruno didn't get man of the match is for that nonsense he did in the second half, where he had a through ball he could have played and then he lost the ball. I think that's the only reason, because that was just so egregious. I think whoever was giving out the man of the match was like, my guy, nah, you cannot do this. You cannot do this and get man of the match. But yeah, all in all, it was a great performance from them, and yeah, that midfield surprised me, I think. Yeah.
I will say my man of the match, to be honest, was Joe Wellington. I think that guy had a perfect game. I didn't see him miss a tackle. I didn't see him miss a pass. I didn't see him. Joe Wellington gave a powerful performance. I think they just gave it to Dan Burn because he scored. But generally speaking, like just keeping the hype, the pressure. My guy Joe Wellington was everywhere, from defense, tackling holes in the box, tackling in the midfield. He's up there, hey man. My brother had a powerful game. And did y'all see the video of Van Dijk bouncing off of Tonali? I think that's when there was like they were running together. Van Dijk tried to muscle him, and he just bounced off the guy. And I was like, yeah, you're cooked, buddy.
I think in that moment he realized, yeah, I'm not signing that new contract, man. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, I think that could have been a moment as well where it was just like, ish, man, ish, bouncing off Tonali.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to throw some stats here. So Newcastle had 17 shots. Liverpool had 7. On target, Newcastle had 6. Liverpool had 2. Which proves again Mangoro's point that Newcastle, they should have scored more. Honestly, they should have actually scored more goals given their output. Interestingly enough, Liverpool had most of the possession at 66% on average, and Newcastle at 34%. So my question is, what are you guys doing with 66% possession? Like that's a lot. That's a big number to have that. They completed 450 passes compared to Newcastle's 227, which means that they were just not being effective, right? You just side to side. Let's find Mo Salah. Okay, Mo Salah can't do it. Let me pass it back to McAllister. McAllister tries to find out what the next move is. Who's there? Diaz is just gonna do still a little shimmy, pass it back again to, and it's just like, what are you guys really, what are we doing here? So those are the kind of stats that just shows Newcastle's dominance in this particular game and just how down pat they had everything. And my question to you guys is, do we think that if Liverpool didn't go the full 120 minutes against PSG, could we have seen something different? Like if, let's say, Liverpool won, or the game just, let's say they lost, if that goal that Bakola was supposed to goal, like if Bakola had just finished his chance, boom, they go through 90 minutes, do we think there would have been a change in this Carabao Cup game? Or maybe not?
I'd say I don't think so. Shout out to Bakola. What a talent. I've been telling you about that guy.
No, he's not. He's not.
He's very talented. That guy. No. Next year we'll be back here talking about Bakola knocking out someone in the Champions League. I just want to throw 2 more stats at you there, just to highlight the dominance. Aerial Jules won 68% for Newcastle, 32% for Liverpool. The other stat here, real quick, is Jules won 57% for Newcastle, 43% for Liverpool. Like, it was a masterclass. And, like, it's just crazy, man, to see, like, what we saw yesterday. Like, in my opinion, just to answer your question there, Mr. Mutta, I think nothing wouldn't have changed. Those Newcastle players yesterday were playing like their lives depended on it. Each and every one of them. Like, the way they were playing, like, I know Newcastle, like, on their day, on a Saturday afternoon at St. James's Park can destroy you. But That one felt personal. That one was personal. I think they probably made them watch last year's final prior to the game, and they just reminded them. They showed them the images at the end when Liverpool was lifting the trophy. I think that's what motivated them even more. That's why they were so emotional at the end because like Joe Wellington was celebrating even throw-ins and blocked shots. Like that's how personal it was. So all in all, like it was a very interesting game. Like to think like Liverpool were dominated by a former striker who now has turned midfielder. Joe Wellington came to Newcastle as a centre forward from Hoffenheim. He's now dominating you as a CM. That's just interesting, man. That is just so interesting. But I don't know, man. Like it's hard to say if Liverpool were tired, like because that's primarily maybe the argument that they could push there. And I think that's why you're asking that, Mutta. But all in all, I don't know if it would have changed much. Maybe the emotion of losing in front of the Cop on Tuesday affected them, but that Newcastle team yesterday when they got there to play, and Liverpool was still on the bus. I don't know how you feel, Samson.
Yeah, I'll say I have some sympathy for Liverpool because they were missing both right backs, and I think this is the first time all season that they they've had to start someone in a position where like all the natural players of that position are missing. So Conor Bradley missing, Trent missing. I think that probably had an impact. Now, how much of an impact? I'm not sure because I'm not sure Conor Bradley necessarily moves the needle for you. I'm not sure he, you know, makes things all of a sudden just better, because you like the sort of domination we saw, you know, you can't break them down. You can't get into their box. Like all that Conor Bradley was going to do is put in some crosses. Trent, I can see where some of his passing, especially on the counter attacks. Trent is very good at this thing where he gets the ball and he hits the very direct ball to Salah, and then Salah's away. In fact, he was doing it a lot against PSG, but PSG's defenders. I mean, I think it's Pacho and Mendes. Wow, just one-on-one against Mo Salah, they were eating him up every time. Maybe, because I know Newcastle's. When it comes to pressing, they like to do this thing where they deny you the middle and force you wide, and once you go wide, they just run back. So you can't even exploit the wide space anymore. They were doing that a lot as well. So maybe Trent, but based on what I saw, man. Because again, we're talking about the same Liverpool team that we saw struggle at home against PSG. Trent was there. So, yeah, I'm not sure how much that changes. Also, okay, we have to acknowledge that as much as Trent can help you defensively, offensively,
Not defensive.
yeah, not defensively. Going the other way, I think Javi Barnes would have had a much better day at the office if Trent was around. So, yeah, I'm not sure it would have helped. So, yeah, I think they've just had a bad 1.5 weeks. There's no sugarcoating it. It's just been rough. So, that didn't matter who was on the pitch.
But let me quickly add. Let's just think about this. If Trent was there, Newcastle also didn't have Anthony Gordon. So he would have been cooked regardless. So I don't know if it would have helped them because we've seen the images of Van Dijk having a go at Trent after they've cooked him quite a lot. And even though Konate comes to help, Trent still gets cooked. Varney would have provided the line breaking pass going forward, as you mentioned, Samson. But from a defensive perspective, against that Newcastle team that was possessed, I don't. And one thing that I think would have maybe killed Trent yesterday, maybe that affected Kwanzaa at right back, was the aspect of just looking at him there at right back, like because Salah was cheating basically. Salah wasn't tracking. I think that was the tactic they were going for, and they were like, Salah, you stay up, don't drop, and then you are the two who will just rely on the you Kwanzaa, and then Konate will help you because like when Livramento would go up, it would be a 2v1 every single time. If Livramento was like at least had like a left foot, like he could have delivered some other crosses. Because there was even a chance I think where I believe Harvey Barnes took on Kwanzaa, and then Kwanzaa thought he was going to cut in, then he crossed it in, and I think Isak headed it against someone's back, and then the shot went out for a corner. Like those 2v1s were killing like Kwanzaa there at right back. I think that's why he also got hooked because like he was like, "Coach, you're killing me here." So in all honesty, but I think with Liverpool, I think for them, this is just my cynical take. Like for them, I'd say their play in this final would have been some funny thing happening, and then they get awarded a penalty, and they win 1-0. That was what I would have envisioned, and the noise pollution we would have heard after that about Salah scoring a penalty and winning them the final. I don't even want to think about how that would have been. The narrative would have been not great. Not great at all.
It's been so fascinating for me because, especially after that PSG game, I've never seen such a collective sigh of relief that Liverpool didn't go through. Like, what is it about it this season? Is it because of the PGMOL and everything that's been happening? But I did not. It felt like everybody was against Liverpool that day. Like nobody, and I don't think I saw it except for Liverpool fans and a few of them. I have not seen anyone saying, "Man, Liverpool's out." Man, like it was such a collective euphoria in the air. Like I'm in a group chat where like we all disagree on things, but that day we're all like PSG fans. Like everyone was except for the one Liverpool guy, but we're all like celebrating. So it's just been fascinating to me, just like even the Newcastle. Like I don't think I've seen people. Of course, a few people say, "Oh, but Spurs fans, would you be happy that Newcastle's winning a trophy before you guys?" All that. I'm just like, yo, why y'all? What's the point, man? Like, I'm happy for Newcastle. I would rather see Southampton win a trophy before I see Liverpool win a trophy. Like, I would rather see that. So there's no team in the Prem. Okay, maybe if it's like Arsenal, Liverpool, then I don't know. But for the most part, I would support any team that beats Liverpool in the final. So it's just been fascinating. But I think we can't have the podcast without talking about just how great Alexander Isak is and his celebration, telling him to get out of here. Get out of here. Look at this guy. Get out of here. It is just, I love Alexander Isak. And I don't know, man. Do you boys think, like, after that, Sully, he goes to Liverpool at the end of the season? Like, does Liverpool buy him after that?
Man, like football is about a lot of things, but it's very emotional. Football it's a very emotional sport, and I don't know, man. Someone cooking you on a big stage and then hitting that celebration, man. I don't know. I don't know. Like as a player, I don't know if you want to see him in the summer. Like I'm not sure if you're ready to welcome him to the team. Obviously, if you're the director of football, sporting director, manager, yes, a player cooks you no matter how terribly he cooked you, and he's great. You want him in your team so he can stop cooking you. But hey, man, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like some like I mean, like I feel like against certain teams he wouldn't have done that because I'm sure he's done it before, but I don't know. There's just something about the way it happened because he looked back and he was looking at the camera. It's like it just felt disrespectful. It felt like there was a little something in there, and I was like, man, that's tough.
You're making this stank face, like
yeah, like it was. I was like, there's no need for all of that. Like, what they do to you, man? So yeah, I'm not sure he does, but I thought Liverpool was in pole position because they haven't spent a penny all year, and I mean, we joke that they've spent all the entire transfer budget on the PGM. Well, probably, maybe that's where they spent the money. But we haven't seen them buy a player since 2023. So all the money's there potentially, and big clubs that are challenging that have been the Champions League these days in the Prem, big six clubs. You're looking at about 200 million. That's just the standard amount of money teams have laying around, right? Before anything happens, if you're in the big six, you're in the Champions League. So can they throw 120 at Newcastle? They should have that money for sure. Now,
They did try to sign Caicedo with that money, just saying.
Yeah, exactly. That was 2 years ago even. So I still think, in my mind, they're still in pole position because they just have the most amount of money available. And they have Mo Salah coming off wages, potentially Trent, potentially Van Dijk. You're talking about probably more than $500,000 in wages. I mean, $500 million in wages just instantly disappearing. Makes sense that they would be in pole position. But at the same time, you ask yourself, does Isak want to join a team that is, Trent is leaving, Van Dijk is leaving, Mo Salah is leaving? How attractive is Liverpool to someone who wants to take that next step in their career? It's tough. I don't see it personally, but they have the money. But yeah, I think Isak would probably want to go to an Arsenal, probably, like play with Saka.
That's not biased.
That makes sense.
Nah.
You're playing with Bukayo Saka, young up and comer. He's not 32. He's gonna be around for a long time. Play with your old teammate Odegaard. Makes sense to me. Or he goes abroad, PSG. Probably need a striker, right? We saw them. The front three is fluid, but imagine how better they would be with Isak leading. I thought they dominated Liverpool both legs, but the one thing they lacked was a presence in the box. And Isak would offer them that, and he wouldn't be out of place, with all the technical players around him. So I'd say PSG Arsenal makes the most sense. And it's just about who puts up the money, because Newcastle's going to want 120, 130, 140, whatever it is. So
I'm actually gonna say before turning to Mangora, I actually think that Isak stays in Newcastle. I actually don't think he goes anywhere. I think he would choose to stay because the fact that they'll play in Europe next season already, and depending on where they end up this season, they could also end up playing because Carabao means they play Europa, right? We're in Europe, so they could also potentially play Champions League. Right now, if I'm thinking about their position in the table,
but the sixth.
they're sixth, right?
With the game in hand.
With the game in hand? Okay, yeah.
So if they win the game in hand, they could go fourth with 50.
If they win that game, yeah. Because they have 47 points right now. They're going to get up to 50 and just replace Chelsea. So, yeah. So, again, they have an opportunity to play Champions League. So, I think they'll make it into Champions League. Okay, I don't know if they will. But that's another episode that we need to talk about. But potentially, if Newcastle gets to Champions League, they already have the Carabao. I don't see Isak leaving Newcastle. I think he stays. Mangoro?
Yeah, I think he stays. This season, the summer. I don't see it. I don't know how financially feasible it is for any team to sign him. We speak of Liverpool potentially having the money. Fine, they may have the money, but Michael Edwards uses too much data and doesn't sign players according to the eye tests. Like we've seen it with most of the players that they sign. They like to use the frugal methods to compete in these markets. They're like a Brighton on steroids, basically. So that's just Liverpool, but also like the price that Newcastle. Because think about it, Newcastle, the price they're going to quote after this final. And if he potentially lands them Champions League, they can call any figure they want.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's under contract for a very long time, there's pretty much nothing you can do. And don't even forget that he was like still their record signing, I believe, at when they bought him in from Real Sociedad for like 65, 70 million at the time. So like I don't think they would be at odds at any point to get rid of him because they know what an asset he is and they have the money. Like we forget Newcastle, if there was no PSR or anything, Newcastle would be outspending even Man City. Like Man City would spend 200, Newcastle would spend a billion. That's how rich Newcastle are. PIF is literally the same people that run the Saudi league. Like that's the same. The four core teams owned the ones that Ronaldo and them play for. Like those teams also, those are the same people that own Newcastle. That's how the money there is deep. It's deep there. So like in all honesty, I don't think Isak is going to go anywhere. Most likely he'll sign a new contract, not tie him down to a bigger contract because I think he signed one I think in the last 18 months he has renewed with Newcastle. So I'm pretty much sure that he'll definitely sign. He has like a lot of suitors out there, but all in all, like I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure they'll end up paying him probably even. I don't know what he's getting right now, but it'd probably be 300,000 per week plus at this rate. If he does renew his contract. But yeah, no, I think that's good. And if Liverpool were to sign a striker at this point, honestly, there's nothing wrong with Chris Wood. Most lethal striker in the league right now. Like
Man, Liverpool fans are gonna kill you, man.
Honestly, though, I'm not even trying to troll. Like Chris Wood,
Actually,
a good addition.
it's like removed Chris Wood at Newcastle. He pushed them all the way down to third choice. So I don't know if Liverpool fans would be down for that, but they'll let us know.
They will let us know.
I'm not sure how you let go of a 32-year-old Mo Salah and sign a 32-year-old Chris Wood. There'll be riots. I can promise you that. There will be riots.
I mean, a backup striker. I mean, they did sign, was it Andy Carroll? What was that guy with the long hair, that tall guy? What is his name?
Andy Carroll was in his prime when they signed him. He just didn't, it just didn't work out. It was approaching his prime even.
But I mean, Chris Wood, I mean, you could, I don't know. I would hear it. It actually wouldn't be a bad move. I actually don't think it would be a bad move to have Chris Wood. I really don't think it would be a bad move. But I hope Liverpool fans can take that with some grace. Anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap up the pod here. Liverpool, we've really enjoyed your tears, and to be honest, like I know. Final thing. I know, like we discussed earlier before we got on about how Liverpool. Mangoro, you're saying that there are rumors that Liverpool want to win the next 10 games so that they win the league when they play Arsenal, so that Arsenal does the guard of honor. Is that what the rumor is?
That is the rumor. That's what they've been saying.
Now, the question is, would they win the next 10 games? Most likely not. So,
well, right after the international break, it is at home to Everton. So, by the way, Trent isn't due to come back by then. Bradley's probably going to be the one who comes back, and even him, he's a doubt. So it's probably going to be Kwanzaa again, a right back. So shaky game to come back to. That's all I'll say. I won't say any more about predictions, but I'll just say that's a shaky game given how the last one ended. The last one ended with a draw and Onslaught disappearing for 3 weeks. So let's see how this one ends. I'm interested to see how this one ends.
Yeah, because they go to Everton, then they go to Fulham, West Ham, Leicester, and then there's that Liverpool Spurs game. Hey, man. Yeah, there's a little run where they play Tottenham, Chelsea, and Liverpool, and Arsenal, and then Brighton after that. So hey, I don't think they make the 10. I don't think that I don't think they make the 10. But anyways, any last words, boys, about Liverpool, Newcastle, Carabao Cup, PSG, UEFA, Klopp, I mean, slot tears before we end the podcast?
My my final words are very simple. I know, Mata, you speak a lot about this, like in terms of like just hate watch when you watch some of these teams such as Liverpool, and I'm just not of that opinion. I'm of the opinion that what I've been saying is now coming to fruition about them lying to us. You can't lie to football, and the chickens are coming home to roost in the most important games for Liverpool this season, and that's what's happened. Like, I don't have to hate watch them or any of those things that you'll be doing. I'll leave that to you. You can continue doing that. I'm of the opinion that when I mention something, I'm not saying people should take it as it's a higher power or something important. It's just something to think about. Like, as Liverpool fans or fans in general of these teams in the Premier League, let's be true to ourselves. Is our team doing the right things in terms of winning matches, or are we just happy with the 3 points? That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, and my final word, I'll just say shout out to Joe Willock, former Arsenal player, Arsenal graduate, lifted his first, I think it's his first professional trophy because I think we sold him before he got to lift the FA Cup with Arteta there. So shout out to him. Happy for the boy. Always happy to see former Arsenal players do well. And lucky that he hasn't got more regular game time. But hey, it is what it is. He's a solid guy. So shout out to him.
Definitely, and I will say, Mangoro, nothing feeds me more than a successful hate watch. Like, I'm telling you, man, nothing feeds me more. Like, sometimes even if Spurs is playing, but there's a hate watch. Sometimes I'm like, man, I can't resist the hate watch, man. I don't know what it is, but man, nothing brings me so much jubilation than a successful hate watch. I can't lie to you. I really can't lie. And I know Samson loves a hate watch too. Like, I know he dabbles.
Hey, listen, Liverpool in the Champions League. Like, this hate watch brought memories of the Atletico hate watch a couple years ago. Like, it was the same, just beautiful feeling, and we got to experience it again. And I was like, oh, at Anfield as well. I was like, oh, that's just
Penalty shootout, Darwin Nunes, stinker. My
beautiful.
Wasn't it also at the Cup end?
Yeah,
It was the
it was great. It was great stuff, man. Absolutely great stuff.
The gods could not have written it any better. Like, if there was a recipe for the, like, this is someone should brand it like, it's, a hate watch recipe, and then I don't know what they'll make, but man, chef's kiss. Anyway, thank you so much, listener, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.